Hey, it's the Heart Dietitian, and I'm here today to talk to you about cholesterol and what protein foods to eat to manage our cholesterol. But before I do, I wanted to ask you to be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you can do so below to make sure you stay up to date on the latest heart healthy tips and heart healthy recipes. Okay, so let's dive in. Cholesterol. There's two types of blood cholesterol that we usually measure when we're going to get our lab work done. One's called HDL and one's called LDL. HDL is our healthy cholesterol levels. LDL is our lousy cholesterol levels. Healthy cholesterols, we want more of. Lousy cholesterol levels, we want less of. So in order to increase our HDL, we do things like exercise and eat unsaturated fats like olive oil. And in order to decrease our LDL cholesterol, we can eat a moderate amount of saturated fat. So we can eat some, but we don't want to eat too much. When we think about protein-rich foods, a lot of the time, especially in animal protein foods, they're high in saturated fat. So that's the one that we have to take into consideration when we're thinking about high protein food sources to manage our cholesterol levels. So let's talk about protein. Protein is an essential building block. Basically, it's digested into amino acids and it helps to build our muscles as well as organs. We need it. We need it at each of our meals, and as we age, we need more of it. So it's important to consume. A lot of the time when I'm counseling individuals, they are restricting their protein because they don't want to eat too much saturated fat, and usually protein sources are high in saturated fat. So that's why I wanted to talk about this topic today. When we think about protein foods, you can think about it in three different categories. One is plant-based protein, one is fish protein, and one is animal protein, just to simplify it. So when we do plant protein, it is naturally low in saturated fat. Examples of plant protein are things like beans and legumes, black beans, kidney beans, lentils, also soy products, so soy milk, edamame, or what's the other one I'm missing? Soy milk, edamame, tofu, tempeh, and then there's also nuts and seeds. So those are the plant-based proteins, all very low in saturated fat. All of these are rich in protein and shouldn't increase our LDL cholesterol levels. Then we have our fish protein. A lot of the fish protein is also low in saturated fat. So that's things like salmon, sardines, mackerel, anchovies. Lots of them are high in fat fish, but they are high in a healthy type of fat called unsaturated fat, not the saturated fat. So again, a great source of protein to consume in a heart healthy diet. Finally, we have the animal protein. That is things like chicken, beef, pork, lamb. All of these have variable amounts of saturated fat, and most of them are higher in saturated fat than the plant proteins as well as the fish proteins. So when we're choosing animal proteins, we want to be choosing the lower saturated fat options. Things like chicken breast, turkey are lower options than something like a beef shoulder or pork shoulder. Those you can see that the marbling of the meats, that's the saturated fat, and that's what's going to increase our LDL cholesterol levels. So choosing low saturated animal meat, fatty fish, or beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, soy protein are all options to make sure you're having protein at each of your meals for a heart healthy diet. The last food item I didn't talk about, which I do get a lot of questions about, is eggs. I think eggs make the list of a heart healthy protein because they are low in saturated fat and they can be consumed in a heart healthy diet. A lot of the time people think that they can't consume eggs because they have something called dietary cholesterol. But dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol levels are two different things. When we eat dietary cholesterol, it doesn't necessarily increase our blood cholesterol levels. the American Heart Association is actually linking that more to the saturated fat intake of, or saturated fat content of our meals. So that's the one that we want to be watching how much we're having. So I think eggs are a really great source of protein, of course, in moderation. Just like any type of protein, you don't want to overdo it, but it does have some nutrients in it that can be beneficial. And it is low in saturated fat, which again can control our cholesterol levels. So I hope that gives you a nice summary of some protein-rich foods that can manage your cholesterol levels. If there's any topic you want me to explore a little more, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to talk about it. And if you want more information about high protein, low cholesterol foods, I have a whole blog post and lots of recipes that I'll link below as well. So be sure to check that out. Thanks for watching.